I used to believe that the worst pain came from heartbreak, but I was wrong. The worst pain is when someone looks you in the eyes, someone you trust, someone you defended for years, and they tell you that your truth isn't real. My name is Maya, and the night I realized I'd been living inside someone else's version of reality, it felt like the floor beneath me cracked open. It was a Tuesday evening, ordinary, boring, quiet. I had just returned from work, still holding my bag, when I noticed something small but unsettling. The living room window was open, not wide, just a few inches. But here's the thing, I never open that window. It's stiff, old, and gets jammed. When my boyfriend Ethan walked in behind me, humming like the world was perfect, I asked calmly, "Did you open the window?" He didn't blink. He didn't hesitate. He didn't even look at the window. He just smiled and said, "Maya, you're overreacting again." It must have been like that. Overreacting. His favorite word. But I knew that window wasn't open when I left. I remembered the morning perfectly. I had wiped the glass, tested the lock, and tugged it closed. Still, he walked past me, kissed my forehead, and said, "You really need to relax. You've been imagining things a lot lately." Imagining. There it was again, the subtle push, the quiet twist, the soft suggestion that maybe the problem wasn't the window, maybe it was me. But something about that moment felt different. Somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered, "You're not wrong this time." I didn't argue. I just nodded. But standing in that quiet living room with the open window and the strange chill that came through it, I felt something cold settle in my stomach, and a question I never dared to ask myself before finally formed. What if the person I loved wasn't careless, but hiding something? That question was the beginning of the truth, and the truth was about to destroy everything he built. Ethan was charming, painfully charming. People trusted him instantly. He laughed easily, spoke gently, and helped anyone who needed a hand. I used to admire him for that. Now I realize it was the perfect disguise. When we first moved in together, life felt peaceful. He cooked breakfast. He sent me good luck texts before work. He made sure my car was serviced on time. But little cracks started appearing early on. Like the time I told him I had reminded him about a dinner reservation. He swore I hadn't said a word and that I remember things in weird ways. Or the night he insisted I borrowed his charger when I knew I had used mine. He placed it in my bag himself, making it look like I forgot. The first few times I laughed it off, but as months passed, the mistakes grew more obvious. One evening, he told me he left his wallet in my car. When I said I hadn't seen it, he sighed and murmured, "You need to pay more attention, Maya. You misplace things a lot." But later that night, I found his wallet inside his own jacket pocket. Still, I apologized. I became quieter, more careful, less certain. Ethan had a way of making every disagreement feel like my fault. He never yelled. He didn't need to. He used calmness as a weapon. Whenever I questioned something, he responded with, "Why are you getting worked up? You do this all the time. You always jump to conclusions. You're being dramatic. You're overreacting. Overreacting, always overreacting." And little by little, my confidence shrank. Not because he was loud, but because he was convincing. He painted himself as the stable one, the rational one, the patient one. But the truth is, Ethan wasn't patient. He was calculating. He didn't want to win arguments. He wanted control. And that open window was about to expose the one thing he didn't want me to see. The side of him he spent years polishing and perfecting. 2 days after the window incident, I found something else. I walked into the hallway and smelled something unfamiliar. A soft floral perfume, not mine, not even close to mine. The scent was coming from his jacket. I asked casually, "Whose perfume is this?" Ethan didn't even pause tying his shoelaces. "Oh, that. Must be from when someone brushed past me at the store. Don't start imagining nonsense. Imagining. Again. But that perfume wasn't faint. It was strong. Fresh. Like someone had been wearing it hours ago. Something didn't sit right. Later that week, he said he'd be working late. But at 10:14 p.m., my phone buzzed with a notification. A coworker had posted a group photo on Instagram. There he was, Ethan, smiling, at a rooftop lounge, and standing right beside him, a woman leaning a little too close. I felt a twist in my stomach. Not rage, not panic, just clarity. When he came home after midnight, I showed him the picture. His expression didn't change. He simply exhaled and said, "You're blowing this way out of proportion, Maya. It was a work outing. Why do you always assume the worst? You're sensitive. You overreact." But I had heard that rooftop lounge had just opened 3 days ago, so I asked, "Why didn't you tell me? You said you were at the office." And that's when he looked straight at me and said, "I did go to the office. We stopped by afterward. You're making it bigger than it is. You always twist things." There it was, the twist, the reversal, his signature move. But the rooftop lounge photo had a timestamp. 9:37 p.m. His office closed at 6, and for the first time, I didn't argue. I just stared at him, quietly, letting the silence expose him. Because silence makes liars uncomfortable. His calm facade slipped. Just a little. A crack I hadn't seen before. That was the moment I knew something deeper was happening, something he didn't want me to find. So instead of fighting him with words, I started watching, learning, observing, and the truth I eventually uncovered made that open window look like the smallest red flag in the world. 3 weeks later, I discovered it. I was cleaning the living room when something caught my eye, a small black object lodged behind the bookshelf. I pulled it out. It was a USB flash drive, no label, no markings. I plugged it into my laptop, expecting old files or papers, but what popped up made my stomach drop. A folder named Maya Review. My hands went cold. I clicked. Inside were audio clips, dozens of them, recordings of me, talking, laughing, discussing things, arguing quietly, asking simple questions. I played the first file. My voice, "I thought we agreed we'd go to my mom's on Sunday." His voice, calm. "Maya, we never talked about that." Then my voice again, confused. "We did. We talked about it yesterday." His voice, "You're misremembering. You do this a lot." Then silence. My silence. He had been recording me. For months. Every argument, every confusion, every moment I doubted myself. He wasn't comforted by my confusion. He was collecting it, like evidence, like trophies. And then I found the second folder, notes. He had written paragraphs analyzing my reactions. She questions things more often when tired. When she hesitates, speak calmly. She folds. Use the word overreact when she gets emotional. Stay quiet for 7 seconds after she talks. She apologizes. Avoid yelling. Soft tone works better. Every line felt like a punch to the chest. I wasn't too sensitive. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't misremembering. He had been training me, studying me, manipulating me like a project. My hands shook as I closed the folder. This wasn't forgetfulness. This wasn't misunderstandings. This was deliberate, calculated, engineered, and that damn open window. The one he swore I was imagining? There was a final folder labeled tests. The window, the charger, the wallet, he had staged them. All of them. To see how I reacted. To see how easily he could twist my mind. Ethan wasn't chaotic. He wasn't careless. He was experimenting. I felt a calm rise inside me. Not anger, not tears, just calm. And in that calmness, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront him with shouting or desperation. People like him feed on your confusion. I was going to do something much worse. I was going to let the truth destroy him. Quietly. I copied every file, every recording, every note, every test. Then I backed them up on 2 cloud drives, a secure folder, and an external hard drive. Ethan thought he had built the perfect psychological maze. He didn't realize he'd given me a blueprint. I planned carefully. No rushing, no mistakes, no confrontations. Step 1, I gathered proof of all the late nights he lied about. Step 2, I printed copies of his notes, the ones analyzing me like a lab subject. Step 3, I contacted someone he never thought I'd talk to, his older sister, Claire. Claire was smart, observant, not easily fooled. She always suspected Ethan had a controlling streak, but she had never seen proof, so I invited her over for tea. When she sat on my couch, I placed my laptop in front of her and opened the folder. She listened to one recording, then another. Then she read his notes. She put her hand over her mouth and whispered, "Maya, this is disturbing." I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I simply said, "I need help. I want to leave him safely, and I want him to face what he's done." Claire agreed instantly. She made 2 calls, one to their mother, one to their family friend who happened to be a therapist. I didn't have to do anything else. Claire set everything in motion. A week later, she invited Ethan for a family lunch. He walked in expecting a normal afternoon. Instead, he found his mother, his sister, the therapist, and me, sitting at the table with a folder in front of us. His mask cracked instantly. "What's going on?" he asked, voice tight. Claire slid the folder toward him. "Explain this." Inside were printouts of his notes, a QR code linking to the recordings, a summary of his behavior patterns. He looked at me with betrayal in his eyes, as if I had betrayed him. "This is out of context," he stammered. His mother shook her head. "I raised you better than this." He tried to defend himself. He failed. Because for once in his life, his own words were louder than his lies. Ethan tried everything. He denied, he minimized, he played the victim. He blamed stress, his job, his childhood. None of it worked. His therapist friend calmly explained, "This is not forgetfulness. This is manipulation. You engineered her confusion." Ethan's face tightened. "Maya, why are you doing this? We could have talked." I finally spoke. "You never talked. You analyzed, you tested, you controlled. I'm done." His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Claire reached over and placed the USB drive on the table. "You need help, Ethan. Real help. And Maya needs to leave." He looked around the table, every face firm, unshaken, unimpressed by his performance. He wasn't the charming one anymore. He wasn't the stable one. He wasn't the victim. He was exposed. The man who used calm words to confuse me now couldn't form a single sentence. For once, he was overwhelmed, speechless, cornered by his own evidence. And when he tried to say, "Maya, please, you're Claire cut him off. "Do not say that word again." His shoulders dropped. He finally saw that his control over the narrative was gone. I stood up, placed my apartment key on the table, and said, "I'm leaving. Don't contact me." He didn't chase me. He didn't follow me. He didn't even stand up, because he knew there was nothing left for him to twist. I moved out that same evening. Claire helped. Her mother hugged me. Ethan stayed upstairs, locked in his room. I expected to cry when I closed the door behind me, but I didn't. I felt light, clear, free. For months, I rebuilt myself. I spent time with friends, started therapy, found hobbies I forgot I loved, laughed more, slept better. And slowly, the fog lifted. The doubts faded. The confusion disappeared. One day, Claire texted me, "He's in therapy now. He's finally facing it." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. His journey was his own now. Mine was just beginning. And for the first time in years, it was mine alone. People imagine manipulation as loud anger, dramatic fights, broken plates. But the quiet kind, the soft kind, the calm, patient, calculated kind, that's the kind that destroys you from the inside. If someone makes you doubt your memory, your feelings, your reality. That's not love. That's control. The strongest revenge is not shouting, not exposing them online, not dramatic confrontations. The strongest revenge is clarity, calmness, leaving without giving them the ending they rehearsed. Ethan didn't fear losing me. He feared losing control. And when I stopped reacting, stopped defending myself, stopped believing his rewritten version of events, he lost everything. So if you're listening to this, trust your memory, trust your feelings, trust your instincts. And most importantly, don't ever let someone convince you that your truth is an overreaction. Because once you see the truth clearly, their entire story falls apart.